hot, and yet all of a sudden I'd get like this chill, and yeah, I never really figured it out, and I don't have to worry about some item being having spirits attached to it or anything like that because everything we dug there went back. So I, I don't have the um, that fear of waking up in the middle of the
Right,
night or
right. Yeah, um, something that I've been doing lately, I haven't really discussed it much on here. I had been doing some filming with a group, and they do paranormal. And one of the things that I've been doing for working with this paranormal group is I um, actually metal detect some of these properties to look for objects that are attached either historically to the property that they're doing the paranormal investigation for, or objects that they could use as what they call a trigger object while they're investigating. Now, so far, I personally hadn't had anything that scary happen on these things, but I have seen some weird stuff. I've seen some of the REM pods light up, talking about certain things, and I mean, yeah, there's definitely something to some of that. But it is interesting to think about what energies are attached, because we are all energy, whether we realize it or not. Um, we put energy into everything that is made, and when we carry things or wear things like a necklace or a ring, we have carried and put energy into that object as well. So it's very interesting how that could relate in another way, not to mean spooky, but in a paranormal type way, but also in a way that maybe you could relate a story. I don't want to say too much. I know that our friend Carrie
mm,
is in chat. Now, I still wonder, I'm going to let you tell the story if you want. And I'm still wondering well, if what happened came either followed or came from maybe something that was dug that day. What's your thoughts on that? And we'll talk about that. You want to tell that?
I'm still going back through. We had talked about it a little bit earlier, but Ed had like cameras in his relic room, and one night it set an alarm, it went off, and it was like an orb coming from like it was like his desk out. It was crazy. Like it was a full on orb, not so much like
It was an orb. There's no doubt about it. I watched that video. You sent it to me, and I was just blown away with the orb and the way it comes. It's like it almost comes right at the camera as
yeah.
well.
And I
And it came from that desk area. But yeah, where he keeps, I guess, a lot of his relics in there, you said?
Yeah, yep, that was his like relic room where he had everything. It was yeah, and I believe there was more than one as well. Like it ended up triggering another like alert on another day and did it again. Like another orb went across the room. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And like
Oh,
you
man.
try to look at it and like you're like, all right, it's dust. Like I don't
Yeah.
remember, and Carrie can say in chat or not, but I don't remember. I was in that room and I don't believe there was a fan. He didn't open the windows because the bottles were all displayed so the light could catch it. And I
Hmm.
don't think there was vents in there or anything like that. So it wasn't like a dust particle. It wasn't like a bug. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it was
And I've seen enough videos now, being part of some of the paranormal groups where,
mhm.
I can tell, I can look at something and tell if it's an orb or if it's a bug or if it's dust or whatever. And that was an orb all day long. There's just no doubt about it. It's crazy.
It was.
Crazy.
Yeah, I was trying to go back through to
So,
see if I could find the video. I'm like, oh, so many messages. But that was definitely, it was creepy and crazy and just like, whoa. And then there was another digger that I was watching one of her, she does the YouTube videos and, out in the field or whatnot. But in the beginning, she chats in front of like a green screen or a map. And in the beginning, she was talking about where she was hunting and this, that, and the other. And the same thing, like if this thing went by, and I'm like, dude, I like screenshot it and sent
wow.
it over. I'm like, did you see this? Like, did you watch after putting the video together? And she's like, no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and I've seen some weird stuff. Like, okay, Carrie says that no, there's no fan in there.
Mm,
And, I've seen a lot of, metal detecting YouTuber videos as well where they're out in the field. Like, for instance, maybe not necessarily orbs caught as much as just little things happening.
yeah.
Like, I've heard one once, and they didn't realize it till later, till they were editing, and you hear this, it sounds almost like a little girl's voice say, "What is that?" Or, "What's she doing?" Or something like that, and that is creepy. It's
Yep.
like, what the hell?
Yeah, that is.
Or heck. And then also, like, I remember watching Digger Dawn, people were saying one day what she was caught in one of her lives. She's sitting there and she's just chit chatting, and you see one of the doors just open, and it wasn't her dog. Her dog was in the room with her, and you can it was caught on camera. It was pretty creepy, and yes, me,
Hmm.
because that door had to totally open, which means that knob would have had to turn.
Yeah.
It's some
Yep.
weird stuff.
Yep. I've seen the videos like where something shifts and then I mean, I was on Audra's live and from a full like 2 rooms over, her machine turned on by itself. Well, she was talking about like yeah, finding a certain thing and it started, doing the it was like whoa. Yeah. So I feel better
Yeah,
about giving a lot of the stuff I find back.
right.
Like I don't want to be bringing that stuff home.
No, I agree with Sean there. Um, it is real. And that's something, I don't know how often we've talked about this, but if anybody in the chat, anybody listening tonight, do you use dowsing rods, or have you ever used dowsing rods? Do y'all mind if we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, we can. I've got a set.
Yeah, so tell me about your experiences with dowsing rods.
Well, I mean, I picked them up after, you and I had talked at a great deal about it and some of the work that you have done with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured I'd give them a try and I have some people know and some people don't. There's a private family plot cemetery on my property.
Mm-hmm.
And back many years ago, some bodies were moved. So what they did is when they opened up some of the larger cemeteries in the towns, they came in and they dug up some of the graves to transport the bodies to the bigger cemeteries, but some got left behind.
Mm-hmm.
But the gravestones remained. Well, some of them. Some of them we're not sure where
Some of
they
them,
are.
yeah.
Some of them you don't want to know. And I took the dowsing rods out to these different graves, and I said, you know, at one point it says there was a body buried here. If it was a female, can you go wide? If it was a male, can you cross? And I did that, kind of going back and forth, talking with the dowsing rods, and I wouldn't look at the stone, and I'd ask the question, and then I'd see if it was male or female, and then I would look at the stone, and it matched. Like every single time it matched. So then I was like, can you help me locate any other graves that might be here that the stones are gone for? And if when I'm getting closer, if you can X over the spot. And it did that quite a few times as well. So I don't know. I'm not really sure. It's not like I'm gonna dig up to see if there was if there's a
Right.
grave there or not. I believe there definitely was. We know that there used to be full on granite all the way around the cemetery, and when people were building in the area, they came and they'd take these giant chunks of the granite wall and use them either for foundations or stepping stones or what have you. We know for a fact that we were doing some renovations. Jon was doing some renovations around the house, and he was digging out back around the steps, and he ended up finding a headstone in like as a stepping stone. I mean, it had dirt on top of it. He didn't realize, and he didn't build the house. He had bought the house. So we found where that belonged based on the footstone that's still out there. So we were able to put it back, but we don't know how many others might be used in the different
Wow.
houses around us. Or but yeah, that was like my first, and honestly that was like the last time I used the dowsing rods. It kind of,
Wow.
it kind of freaked me out how accurate it seemed that they were. So
Yes.
I kind
Yes.
of, yeah.
Yeah. For those of you that aren't familiar with dowsing rods as much, now, when I know I've talked about this on here before, so forgive me if you've heard this, but kind of my first introduction to dowsing rods is I do remember my granddad and them talking about, using like what they called witching rods back in the day,
Hmm.
or like two sticks or a wide stick, find water. And that's a lot how they used to find springs underwater, and where to dig their wells and stuff. Um, and, I'd heard of people using dowsing rods to find that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And later on, and I know I've talked about this probably not all that long ago, I apologize. But I guess to explain our listeners tonight, so when I was I had started a metal detecting club in Smithville, Texas, and there was a guy there that had written a book on the local history. I never could get a metal detector in his hand, but he had made me a pair of dowsing rods. He asked me, "Have you ever heard of dowsing rods?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, do you have a pair?" And I'm like, "No. Would you like me to make you a pair and learn?" And I was like, "Of course, yeah, sure, sounds great." So he made me a pair of dowsing rods out of copper, and you can make them almost out of any kind of metal.
Hmm.
Of course, copper is extremely conductive, as we know,
Yep.
because copper is basically what's used in the coils that we use for metal detecting. Anyway, so he made me these, and he said, "Okay, now I want you to go find all your pipes in your backyard and tell me what to do." And so I went out there, and it worked. And every time I'd come up to the edge of the house, and it would line up perfectly with where the faucet was, and I knew exactly where all the pipes were, and I could follow the pipes down. I was like, wow, that is so cool. It really works. So then later on, he said, "Okay, you're not going to believe this, but we're going to go out to